If you've watched the other videos about radiation therapy, then you already know quite a lot about this life-saving treatment method. But maybe there are still a few question marks floating around in your head. Of course, we can't answer all the questions you may have here. That's simply because every child and adolescent, every family and every illness situation is unique in its own special way. But we still went ahead and asked the KiTZ team and said, tell us, what are some typical questions that come up again and again in conversations with affected families and that are especially important to them? So here are these questions once again, all together, and answered for you as briefly and concisely as possible. Let's start with the first question. Is radiation therapy dangerous for others? Not for the patient themselves, but for others, for the family or for friends. Quite clearly no. It's similar to an X-ray examination. The radiation is only active when the treatment device is switched on. And at that moment, only the patient is in the room. So there is no danger to others, not even to small children or pregnant women. So you can all touch, hug, and spend time together as usual afterwards. In this context, many also wonder, do you feel pain during radiation therapy? No, here too, an X-ray examination is a good comparison. You simply lie there during the treatment, you don't feel the radiation itself. Another frequently asked question is, how long does a course of radiation therapy actually take in total? Usually, the treatment is given once a day over several weeks, always from Monday to Friday, and in each session, only a small portion of the total dose is administered. This is done to better control the side effects. But you can be sure, exactly what your own personal radiation treatment plan looks like is planned down to the smallest detail by a whole team of various specialists, and it's tailored just for you. So, okay now. And then, of course, the next question is, how long does a single therapy session actually take? The radiation itself only takes a few minutes, but the preparation takes about 20 to 30 minutes. Of course, that can be a challenge because you have to lie as still as possible during this time. But you can also prepare younger children well by talking to them in advance and explaining why it's so important not to move during this time. And you can ask if it's possible to listen to music, an audio story, or a podcast during the therapy. That way the time passes more quickly and it's not quite so boring. Something else many people want to know is whether hair falls out after radiation therapy. Hair only falls out if the head is being irradiated, and even then it usually only falls out in the area that is being treated. But generally, it grows back afterwards. Ultimately, it depends on how intensive your radiation treatment is. And in general, side effects are, of course, an important topic when it comes to radiation therapy. That's why we've made a separate video for you on this topic. So let's continue. Can you go to school or kindergarten? The answer is yes, provided your immune system is working and you feel well. It's definitely very helpful for maintaining a bit of normality. And if you can't attend your own school, you can also go to the hospital school and be taught there with others. Other questions concerning everyday life during radiation therapy, such as hygiene at home and which warning signs to watch out for at home, are also answered in our video on what to pay attention to during radiation therapy. And that will lead us now to the last question. Does my child, or do I as a teenager, have to stay in the clinic for radiation treatment? So, in principle, radiation therapy is carried out on an outpatient basis. That means you can go home afterwards. However, there are also reasons that make an inpatient stay necessary, where you stay in the clinic for 1 or more days. For example, if you live very far away, or if the radiation therapy is combined with another treatment, such as chemotherapy, which makes it necessary to stay in the hospital. So that was our short Q&A session. Understanding and knowledge are very important keys to the success of a therapy. And of course, whenever new questions arise, you can always ask. You can ask your doctors, and of course also the nursing staff. Of course, this doesn't just apply to questions, but also to your worries or concerns.